Picture this. You're tasked with mapping the entire globe. You have to detail the exact structure of its oceans and land masses, but here's the catch. You can't ever step foot on a boat or leave your local region. It sounds completely impossible, right? Well, that's exactly the ancient mystery we're unpacking in today's explainer. We're looking at a fascinating textual analysis from a source document titled, How Did Moses Know? It takes a really close look at the geographical descriptions found in the book of Genesis, and the author presents a pretty compelling argument that a man living thousands of years ago with absolutely zero global travel experience somehow managed to accurately describe Earth's complex hydrography. I mean, how is that even possible? Let's find out.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this is the central mystery our source material poses. How did Moses know? The text we're analyzing suggests that Moses recorded some profound geographic and scientific realities way before modern science could actually verify them. Actually, scratch that. Think about it. He didn't even have a map, let alone satellite imagery or maritime explorers feeding him data. He certainly wasn't wandering the Earth surveying its oceans. So our whole investigation today is about zooming in on the specific textual clues in the Genesis account. We want to understand exactly what geographical claims are being made here and how the author of our source interprets this ancient knowledge.
Section 1. Dividing the waters. Let's analyze Genesis 1:6-8.
To start unpacking this, our source points us directly to the second day of creation in Genesis chapter 1, verses 6-8. The text reads, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Notice the very specific, intentional language here. The text isn't just talking about water in some vague general sense. It is specifically describing a massive division, a literal separation of waters from waters by something called a firmament. So how exactly does our source interpret this ancient description? Well, the author explains that long ago, the waters that were over the earth were actually resting right down upon the surface. The creation of this firmament represents God dividing that water. According to the source, a part of that water was lifted up into the heavens, basically creating a vast ocean in space that's now suspended in the atmosphere, while the rest of the water remained down here on the Earth's surface. The author really highlights this as the first major physical and geographical reality recorded by Moses, this complex atmospheric separation of water. Moving on to our next section, One Bed, Many Seas, analyzing Genesis 1:9-10. As we move to the third day of creation, we arrive at what the source considers the absolute climax of this geographic argument. This is where the text moves from the atmosphere right down to the surface of the earth. The author points our attention to verses 9 and 10. Let the water be gathered together under one place, and the gathering together of the waters called seas. Now, when you read this closely, there is an immediate linguistic tension that our source highlights. On one hand, the text says the water is gathered together into one place, a singular location. But then, in the very next breath, the gathering of those waters is called seas, plural. Which brings us to a massive question posed by the author. How in the world did Moses know there would be several oceans or seas? The source emphasizes that Moses had absolutely no human way of knowing there could be more than one body of water in the entire world. It's not like he traveled around to see how many oceans existed, right? From a strictly human perspective back in ancient times, verifying the existence of multiple, distinct seas across the globe was practically impossible. Yet the text explicitly uses the plural seas. Now, what's really interesting here is the core geographical paradox the author is addressing. You have these two totally different phrases sitting side by side in this ancient text. Gathered into one place obviously suggests a singular, unified body of water, but called he seas suggests multiple, distinct bodies of water. For a long time, you might look at this and just see a contradiction. But our source argues that actually, this isn't a contradiction at all. Rather, it's a statement of profound scientific accuracy that perfectly describes the physical reality of our planet.
Think about modern geography for a second. The crucial point here is how perfectly these two phrases align with what we know today. The source points out that it is a proven scientific fact that all the oceans of the world are joined together. They're completely connected. They do in fact all rest in one single common bed. Moses wrote that all the waters will be gathered into one place, which perfectly describes our interconnected global ocean, and yet he also noted they would be divided into seas, accurately reflecting the various oceans and seas we recognize today. The author stresses that Moses could not possibly have known this incredible geographical nuance on his own. It really forces us to ask how ancient texts might align with modern topography in ways we rarely even consider.
Which brings us to connected oceans, divided land. Let's look at this geographic contrast.
And this brilliantly illustrates the depth of the text's accuracy according to our source.
Look at how the text contrasts the waters with the dry land. Concerning the waters, Moses recorded that they would all be in one place, resting in a common, connected bed. But he didn't say this about the dry land. As the author points out, Moses recognized that the dry land was divided up. Part of it would be over in one location, and another big discrete mass of it would be in a totally different location. So the text accurately reflects that land is divided into separate continents, while the oceans, despite having many different names, share one single, continuous bed.
Let's just pause for a second and quickly recap exactly what our sources claiming Moses accurately recorded. First, the separation of waters leaving suspended atmospheric water up above the earth. Second, the reality of a connected global ocean resting in a single common bed. Third, the simultaneous existence of multiple distinct seas within that connected bed. And fourth, the contrast of the waters with discrete, separated land masses or continents. The author's main argument here is that these are highly specific, geographically accurate facts that a man in Moses' position simply had no physical means to verify.
And that leads us right into the final conclusion: divine inspiration.
Having laid out all these textual clues from Genesis and compared them with known geographical facts about our oceans and continents, the author's ultimate takeaway is captured perfectly right here. I think it's tremendous that the Bible is so scientifically accurate as to reveal these things. Because Moses couldn't have known these global geographical facts by himself, the source concludes that there's really only one logical explanation for this level of scientific accuracy. God inspired this truth directly in Moses' mind. For the author, the highly accurate description of a connected global ocean and divided continents stands as clear proof of divine inspiration.
Which leaves us with a fascinating final thought to ponder. As we look at the claims made in this explainer, we're kind of forced to ask, where do ancient texts and geographic science intersect? Whether you approach this text from a theological perspective, a historical one, or just with pure scientific curiosity, the linguistic precision of describing multiple seas resting in a single, connected bed thousands of years before global mapping, well, it's undeniably thought-provoking. It invites us to look a little closer at ancient writings and consider what other mysteries of the natural world they might hold. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep learning.